Hello, my name is Tom Line, and thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel, Civil War Corner. Tonight we're going to discuss the Battle of Newton. The Battle of Newton took place on March 14, 1865, in the small town of Newton, Alabama, which is located in the southeast corner of the state, very close to the Florida and Georgia borders. This battle had little to no effect on the Civil War, but it is a very fascinating human interest story. We have two main characters in this drama, Joseph B. Saunders and Jesse Carmichael. Saunders had been a captain in the 31st Georgia Infantry, but in 1864 he had resigned his commission due to the fact that he was about to be drafted into the Confederate Army, which would have knocked him back to private. So what he decided to do was jump sides. He joined the Union Army, or Union Cavalry actually. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant and assigned to Company F, 1st Regiment of the Florida U.S. Cavalry. Saunders' outfit attracted not just Confederate deserters and local Unionists, but also outright criminals and other less than desirable elements as well. Carmichael, on the other hand, was a veteran of the 15th Alabama. He had served as a corporal and had lost a hand at Antietam. In the late winter of 1865, Brigadier General Alexander Asboth, commanding federal forces in the Florida Panhandle, ordered Saunders to make a raid into Washington County, Florida. His main mission was to raise recruits for the Federal Army at East Pass on Santa Rosa Island, as well as to confiscate horses and cattle belonging to rebels in that area of Florida. Saunders had a different idea. He knew they would be close to the town of Newton, and in the courthouse at Newton were his records with the Confederate Army, and he certainly wanted those not to fall into the Union hands and to be destroyed. So he decided he would take his men and burn down the courthouse. So on March 14th, he rode towards Newton. Newton was also the location of a Confederate conscription office staffed at the time by Captain Joseph Briere, a former officer of the 15th Alabama Infantry who had been wounded at Gettysburg and returned home to lead efforts against local draft dodgers and deserters. This made it an even more tempting target for Saunders, who was seen as a traitor by the citizens of Dale County. Unbeknownst to Saunders, he and his men had been spotted riding into town, ironically by the father of Jesse Carmichael. And Mr. Carmichael surmised that the cavalry was headed for Newton, so he rushed back to town to tell Jesse. Jesse gathered up his neighbors and a good friend of his named John McIntyre, and they rode a distance out of town to provide an early warning of Saunders' arrival. Spotting Saunders at the head of a mounted company of 44 men, Carmichael quickly rode back to Newton, where he brought reinforcements to his ambush site. He went on another reconnaissance mission, and as he was out riding, the rest of his friends were worried about their family in town, so they rode back into town. Meanwhile, Briere and his home guard units had mustered in Newton. Upon hearing what had happened, he immediately took charge of the town's defenses. He wanted to set up barricades in the middle of the town to lure the Union cavalry into town where he could fight them in the city streets where they would have less room to maneuver. However, he had his men facing the wrong direction. Carmichael knew this, so he took 9 of his friends and arranged them on the east side of the square. Carmichael and 3 of his men took up positions near a hotel, while the other 6 formed up further down a side street near the hotel at the square. Saunders and his company rode into Newton from the southeast at full gallop, and heading for the courthouse. Carmichael and his outfit let them pass, then opened fire on them from behind with double-barreled shotguns and rifles, while their friends up ahead simultaneously fired into the front of Saunders' column. Thoroughly alarmed by this unexpected development, and hampered by malfunctioning pistols and rifles, the attackers bolted for the edge of town and rode off into the night. A one-handed ex-corporal and his 9 friends had routed a Union cavalry force 4 times their size, on foot in the dark. Not one of Carmichael's men was hurt or killed, while Briere's men on the other side of the square never got off a shot. Saunders, for his part, reported 3 dead and 5 wounded among his troops. Saunders' action in Alabama became the subject of an investigation. In June of 1865, when he returned to Pensacola after a 4-month absence, he had been given 14 days to complete this mission, and when he returned 4 months later with only 8 men out of the 20 he started with, the Army demanded to know why Saunders claimed that what had happened. Saunders claimed that sore feet, flood waters, 700 rebels, and a lack of forage for his horses all had combined to force him to hide in the swamp for 4 months, despite numerous attempts, he claimed, to get back to Pensacola. No mention whatsoever was made of Saunders' unsuccessful attack on Newton or any of the other alleged depredations committed by his men against local civilians during this time. Apparently, this satisfied his superiors, and Saunders was permitted to resign rather than be court-martialed. On September 13, 1865, after saying that he feared for his safety and the welfare of his family, who were living in Dale County at the time, Saunders returned to Alabama after leaving the Army. Several citizens of Newton attempted to arrest him at his home, but were repulsed, with one of them being killed in the process. He fled to Decatur County, Georgia, where his victim's father allegedly tracked him down and killed him. Again, not a battle that affected the war in any way, but just, frankly, a fascinating story from the annals of Civil War history. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you've seen and heard, don't hesitate to click like and subscribe. Thank you for your time.